Art is a very amazing skill that most people have. From thousands of years ago to the present day, we express our ways of emotion and storytelling as well as what our mind tells us when words fail to form. It's even better now that we have the internet as our advertisement for what we make and to share to everybody, whether that's domestically or internationally. Combined with this, there's many places to make accounts, cultivate a massive bunch of people who enjoy our many stories, and to have a group of people around your group around a so-called digital campfire. Well, one important thing to memorize of this is never to abuse your platform and always to make sure that you're in the realm of legality as well as in the sense of morality and care. But unfortunately, with that said, there are those who abuse their platform and rather make disgusting or straight up illegal or downright idiotic content and make so many excuses to defend it, being age, a time skip, an alternate universe, a plot, or etc. And many use this to make money, views, follows, and or just do it out of boredom, making the most outrageously horrid stuff in some cases. And right here, we'll go through the many artists of the FPE fandom that have these very horrible issues, and then I'll begin to shoot down any excuse. So the way this will go is the first wave, I will explain who is on the list, and then on the second wave, I will attempt to shoot down every single argument that is brought up. Now, with that being said, we shall continue on. From an artist who uses R wording as a plot device for the birth of their OC, to another artist who disrespects Katie and draws her nude, to another one who is in contact with a 15-year-old, and to another one who also kinda has a strange relation with Mustache Man, if you will. I am here to expose every single one of these degenerates of the FPE fandom. Welcome to FPE Artists, the rabbit hole of degeneracy. Before we head into the main few, I want to quickly go over some dishonorable mentions. This is to better prepare us for what lies ahead and gives us a metaphorical appetizer, as you will, before we go into the main course. With that in mind, I want you to know that we will be diving into some disturbing, disgusting, and dark topics. So please do take this warning into account, and please, if you do not want to see any part of this, do skip ahead to this timestamp right here, or just use the scroll bar and get into the second phase, or just click off, whatever you want to do. And if you want to stick with us, your discretion is advised, mind you. So, anyways, we shall continue on with the first person named Verlust The Deer. Now this person is a minor themselves and unfortunately is an NSFW artist, making many pictures of Miss Thavel or of one of the other teachers being nude, which I cannot show here for obvious reasons, which is a bad start already. Furthermore, around July or early August, she was booted from the FPE Fundamentals and Bloodshed Discord due to the owner wanting to protect minors there, as well as also feeling uncomfortable with her being an NSFW artist. It would further get worse when she would be booted off the paper-bound Discord server, also for allegedly committing SH on another server under her second account, V Oliver aka LustfulDeer. She is still around online as of the making of this video, but another one on the dishonor list is Rising Star. This person was a good artist at the start of their account and coming into the FPE fandom, but it quickly devolved into NSFW and SFW of minor characters such as Ruby and Bubble, drawn with extra large features that sexualize them. It gets even worse when you do realize minors follow this person, as well as how she takes no care into who sees these images. Unfortunately, she is still up, and hopefully someday they will be removed or face some sort of consequence, whether it's good or bad. Another controversial and last mention on the dishonor list is Sky. This person is a mint Oreo shipper, meaning she ships Miss Grace x Miss Circle and showing them in either controversially disgusting or serious scenarios. For a few of them, I cannot show them because A, it will get my video taken down for disturbing or graphic content, and B, I don't want to traumatize my audience with such stuff. So I will instead show what isn't inappropriate, and also will show the more important stuff as well as describe it in a more friendlier way. Now, many pictures she did make feature Miss Circle or Miss Grace getting brutally killed or beaten by another character, or doing this to themselves, or committing self-sustained wounds by each other. And on a more disturbing note, they made a comic and posted it to their X account. Again, I cannot show this because it does have some PDF contents as well as disgusting content, but I will explain it in more friendlier terms. The picture shows Grace and Circle doing what they do in the Discovery Channel, as you will, whilst their baby watches them both, which is very disgusting, and especially when Sky was so delusionally defensive about it when being confronted. They have made many posts about debating their audience in an attempt to gain sympathy and comments on their post. Unfortunately, they are still online and creating many graphic pictures with their supposed quote-unquote wifey, and it is unknown yet hopeful that they both get removed someday. To get to the next subject, to the main one, and move off of the dishonorable mentions, we will go ahead and go to the main people with the first part, and I feel that nobody better fits this description more than Cara Voyeur. And for those who don't know her, Cara Voyeur is a French female user who posts FPE content around her character named, well, Cara Voyeur, and her AU named the Style Art AU. Now, most of her content is amazing, but one post was the most concerning of the bunch. On April 20th, 2025, she would upload a post about Cara Voyeur's parents, showing two characters named Miss Circle and her other OC named Gabriel. Now, the story goes that Gabriel, who was 30, forces her, who was 18 at the time, into having forceful contact with him, or else he will kill her, which is very disturbing to think of. And not only is this not ever something you should ever incorporate into your OC's lore unless you're doing it in a respectful manner, but the way she went about it, delusionally defending this type of thing, as well as playing it off as a random, fun, quirky moment or as a quote-unquote plot device, makes it all the more worse. Now, when I talked to her about this, I was kind and offered her many solutions to change the story, or if she was to keep it, try to be respectful with it and do more research. But it led to me and her getting into a fight, as she commonly said she will not change it because she was the one who wrote the story, and that it's somehow relatable and that there is more worse than her. And she actively knows that what she's doing is wrong, but doesn't want to fix it to avoid being scrutinized by anybody or anything. And to top it off, a user named swoops in to defend this sort of thing, as well as tell her to disregard the evidence and advice that I gave, and how I was a bully, and when all I did was give recommendations and examples, which I will get into later, which is honestly pathetic and idiotic on both their terms. Now, idiotic doesn't even come close to the next person, that being EAR. This person creates very questionable artworks involving Abby, a 15-year-old minor character from the series, and putting him in risque scenarios, such as him breaking his pelvis in a wheelchair, after a certain thing with an unnecessarily huge gotcha character who is an adult, and also of another where the user posted all the females in FPE and the Katieverse simping over Abby. And to make things even worse, EAR would have stolen Melly's OC and used her in one of the posts, but upon being confronted by her, he would later retract, but not before his immature, low IQ gang of Meat Rider fans would harass and say rude stuff to her in the comments such as, "You are useless, Melly, and delete yourself." He keeps posting these cringy videos and photos to his page, and many delusional people still follow him. But it is hopeful that he either gets investigated and taken down. And unlike with EAR's audience, where they rather suck up to their precious little creator rather than face any type of reality, Club 1108 has seen one of the biggest downfalls in the fandom, with his fans turning against him after realizing the exploitative and controversial nature this guy has. Club 1108 is a user from Thailand who made very disturbing or straight up horrid content involving FPE or Edgyverse, now called Enigmaverse, characters, as well as Katie and Annie themselves. On numerous occasions, he has disrespected Katie by using her characters and putting them in uncomfortable or disturbing situations, causing her to block him on more than one occasion. With Annie, it was worse, as he would draw her as a Minecraft villager with someone shooting her in the stomach. And then, when he got blocked by her, he begged her to unblock him, but thankfully to no avail. He would use violent scenarios or make serious concepts like World War II, World War I, and other things as jokes, and even dress them up for war or either had them killed during these events. Also creating a character very closely resembling a certain mustache man that I cannot mention here. He also has made ableist content featuring the characters having disabilities such as being blind, deaf, or in a wheelchair, and being dumbed down to only being stereotypes and nothing used more for just cliches, content, and other stuff. For now, he thankfully received the backlash he did deserve and has now stopped, but only time will tell if he will return. The only one who hasn't stopped though is Fetus Slurper. And if you've watched my FPE Iceberg video, please do give it a watch. I will leave a link in the description below. You know I talked about him in the video and expressed my distaste in the content they do. Fetus Slurper is a user who commonly ships Abby in a circle, but in the swap AU. They even say this chilling quote in their bio, which reads, "I want to kiss swap Abby on the lips." They do many posts showing them having a baby, kissing, and even having close contact, which is forceful. And despite saying that the art isn't theirs, their art style kind of matches, as well as their name being signed there, so yeah, good luck arguing that in court, bud. They are also delusional as well by saying they don't care about how illegal and depraved it is, as well as how later on it goes against the law despite being a time skip as an excuse. Knowing in the swap AU that Circle is depicted as a 15-year-old and Abby a 25-year-old is really sickening. Unfortunately, Barbara RGC being called sickening would be an insane understatement, as she is downright insulting and disgusting. Barbara RGC is widely regarded as the most hated artist of the entire fandom. Being 15, she has done a fair share of controversial things, such as taking the young characters and making them huge and hypersexualized, shipping them with the adult characters, an example being Demi X Claire, as well as disrespecting Katie on more than one occasion, with saying stuff like how she should respect everyone's depiction since it's in the public domain and that there's more worse than her. Recently, she has made more involving NSFW of Katie, who is 16 years old IRL at the time of this video being made, and even went as far as to send another minor a picture of Zip doing a certain thing I cannot say here. But yeah, thankfully it's censored. The amount of backlash this doofus got cannot be far off from justified, and effectively and well-deservingly destroyed her career for everybody. Someone with a crumbling reputation that is waiting to fall like a building under demolition is Emmett64. Emmett64 is a user in their 20s who makes NSFW posts about many of the minor FPE characters, including Claire mostly. Not only does he do her and the others, but also shows irony, saying how he supposedly respects Katie and Edgy, but yet draws Katie herself twice. One of her getting essayed by him as an OC, and also of her being nude and showing off herself. And even said Edgy will be next. Now, mind you, Edgy is 25, so that part is somewhat okay, but not really. But Katie is 16 years old as of right now, and him being at least in his 20s, that makes it even worse. And yes, that means he's making CP of a real person. Now, he did get a good amount of hate for this, and he did back off, but he returned, and he's on Reddit as user/AlexWilliams6, and is in the official FPE subreddit, and is also on X and on a certain website with the name 34 on it. And he has been confronted by me, and despite me providing many good reasons and also backing it up with evidence as to why what he is doing is wrong and legally and morally, despite being from Germany, I believe, he remained very delusional and saying that he was doing nothing wrong. Now, one point of interest I do want to point out is that there are more people against him who do agree with what I did say to him, as he posted this on his Reddit calling me a Karen. The ones who did agree with me did get downvoted, which shows his weakness and disregard for who it is being made for, but it also shows how many people are truly against him, which is perfect for somebody depraved. And now, the next person is Shax. Shax is or was a famous artist who is 20 years old and resides within the fandom and makes very edgy posts using zip with realistic features such as claws, sharp teeth, flames, and glowing eyes. Now, many people love her, but many hate her, and for good reason. Shax has unfortunately made pro-ship art of Zip R-wording Alice and R-wording Abby and making her be a yandere for him as well. Sickening enough, she even says she wants to make NSFW of Zip, who, mind you, is a 14 or 15-year-old character. And when somebody called her out or talked negatively about her, she would either send her horde of meat riders after you, or harass you, or play the victim card and say she was going to do self-injury from the backlash. A user who I did talk to, who I will allow them to remain anonymous as to not have them be harassed, says they have contacted the mods in the FPE subreddit over on Reddit to bring these accusations to the light, but nothing happened. Neither were any concerns made. And a reason for this was that Shax had a huge influence on this, and even the mods were fans of her and allowed her to make such things such as a banner for the server, and Shax would call the mods and allow them to warn or ban people who ever called her out. She is banned now out of the subreddit, and she has made a sort of half-baked attempt to redeem herself, even if it didn't carry out that well, but it is a sort of step in the right direction. And lastly, the worst on here that will never find redemption, but instead will only face scrutiny, is Cydo XD. Cydo XD is the reason why I started work on this video, and why I'm so happy about making it, and why it took so long to make. Now, Cydo is an 18-year-old Russian male who created the Alternative Future AU. Now, not only does the AU not make any sense, mostly favoring females over than males in that universe, nor does it offer anything good except being built off of Favel x Abby, which is a pedophilic pro-ship, but it doesn't hide how sick and demented this person is. A few months ago, Cydo XD was in contact with a 15-year-old named Clemmy and began manipulating her by saying how he was a better friend, all cause many people called him out, including myself, and took advantage of her while she wasn't taking her medication, making her write a love confession to him. And at times, he even addressed her as darling, baby, and sweetie, making her even more uncomfortable according to her testimony. And then, when he got confronted, he leaked DMs of himself unknowingly being racist to Clem, saying the N-word and referring to her as a cartel member, and at one point allowing many people on his post to say the N-word and praising them. It doesn't help that she was also an African American person as well, so yeah. As a personal input, I have gotten him banned from 2 FPE subreddits by alerting the mods, as well as getting him off of Reddit as a whole. As for the official FPE subreddit, I got banned all because I alerted everybody, even them, on how disgusting this guy was. It didn't help that I later found out that he was banned previously and was allowed back in under quote-unquote heavy supervision, and it wouldn't be weeks until they finally decided and he got banned from there. I'm not really surprised about being removed, given the fact that most people there, including the mods, have such a low IQ that they think it's more important to judge a character's sexuality, race swap a character, turn the entire place into 1984, or just to praise a reposted post of someone's artwork on Twitter, getting 1,000 upvotes in their subreddit, rather than report and ban the PDFs over there, such as, well, Alex Williams 6 and other people, or just blatantly problematic people from the subreddit. But hey, I digress. Now, most people thought I was crazy until they saw how much of a monster he was. But unfortunately, he will use his rabid fans to silence you and even nearly harass and silence Clemmy about her experience with him, which goes to show how truly moronic and how much of a danger he is away from his disgusting art, especially of one where he made Thavel S.A. Abbey. It doesn't make it any better that a friend of theirs who is 21, named Bisexual Light Skeleton, is a hardcore fan who also allegedly has nudes of a minor character, a 15-year-old named Lana, meaning, yeah, they have CP content, basically. So, yeah, pretty bad. Many of these guys' fans will go on to try and be the white knight and defend their precious little creator, thinking there is no wrong. But, unfortunately, I'm here to disprove every single excuse. So, let's get into it, with the first one being, I can include sensitive themes because I want to, it's my story. Now, this excuse is such a brainless mess and shows not only how delusional you truly are, but also will make people look at you weirdly. And now, I'm not discouraging the use of it. You can put it in, and I do believe that you can create whatever you like. But there are better ways on how you can put this into your story and not just create a quote-unquote plot addition because you're that lazy on making a character's backstory. Now, to have a good grasp on how you can do this, let's make a good observation on some good examples of how this is portrayed versus how some badly portray this. And one piece of media that comes to mind in my head is the book called The Color Purple, which would go on to have a 1985 and 2023 film of the same name, as well as a Broadway play as well. The book, written by Alice Walker, is centered around a character named Celie. I think I said that wrong or right, I'm not too sure. But anyways, Celie is a poor African-American woman who grows up with her abusive father in rural Georgia, who beats her and later does inexplicable things to her, making her have 2 kids which are later taken away by him. And the book goes on to detail her struggles with the trauma, as well as the many issues such as sisterhood, female empowerment, race, identity, and finding your voice. But for this part, we're only going to focus on the abuse part, as that's the only thing relevant to this part. And the way that it is shown is with emotional weight and realism rather than coming out of the blue with the details. And it is also implied but not graphically shown, but is also clear enough to not have it be exploited for shock value. It also shows the healing process of Celie's self-worth and capacity for love and trust, as she feels and gains the support of many other characters, including women, throughout the book and throughout the 2 films. And another example I want to go over is the Sarah Lynn arc in BoJack Horseman. And for those unaware of what this is, BoJack Horseman is an American adult animated tragicomedy that focuses on the titular character, who is a washed-up star from a 90s sitcom, as he goes through many misadventures to get himself back into the spotlight with an autobiography, but also tries to fight his addiction to drugs and alcohol and recklessness. To get back on track, let's go over the tragic part of Sarah. Now, Sarah is a child actor who grew up under the care of Bojack, who played a role as her father figure, which took a disturbing turn for the worse as she grew older. Bojack has exploited his power on her many times, making her be raised to only seek his approval, which led her to go on a drug binge during her recovery, and unfortunately later on they both would have a close moment together where she wasn't able to give proper consent. Now, despite the disturbing synopsis, the way the show deals with it is in a more realistic and very respectful way, unlike how Vivzy Pop is with Angel Dust, or how Family Guy is with some cutaway gags, or, in this case, Cora Voyer with her story, or even in creepypastas like Play With Me, with the character Sally Williams, portraying it in their improper ways where it's either shown as a gag or just thrown in for no reason other than to create shock value. And throughout the arc, he is guilty, but it doesn't excuse him, emphasizing the damage done to her, even when she eventually does die. What's actually rare is that we get to see a character here held accountable and see them live with the guilt rather than there being some sort of instant resolution like how many cartoons today have too much of and fall flat with when delivering a serious and powerful message. And with these examples, it helps to take a look and redo the plot or make a storyline that doesn't involve this type of stuff so out of the blue. And if you're going to do it in a respectful way and not treat it as a joke. It is a very serious topic that many people live with in the current day and in real life too, not just digitally. And it makes you look like a total idiot for defending it and inventing all these excuses as to why you should use it. Think with your brain. And to go on to the next one, this one it's fictional, it's not real, so it's not an issue. Now, this by far has to be the dumbest one that I've ever heard. And not only does this make you look so inept and delusional, but it does violate the law as well. You heard me right, it does violate the law. Now, on this article by the U.S. Department of Justice Criminal Division, it talks about the Reno versus ACLU case back in 1998 and condenses some of the information here in the obscenity, law, and minors section of the article, where it says, quote, for example, using a cartoon character or children's television program in the domain of a website that contains harmful or obscene material may be punishable under federal law. In addition, visual representations such as drawings, cartoons, or paintings, that includes sculptures as well, that appear to depict minors engaged in very close activity and are obscene are also illegal under federal law. And if you want more of a law assignment, this falls under section 1466A of Title 18, where it says that it is illegal to possess it regardless of it being cartoon, fictional, or what have you. And on a legal website named AVO, many lawyers did mention if it was legal or illegal. And a few comments go as follow. This one reading, quote, makes it illegal for any person to knowingly produce, distribute, or receive or possess with intent to transfer or distribute visual representations such as drawings, cartoons, or paintings that appear to depict minors engaged in explicit conduct or are deemed obscene. This statute offers an alternative two-pronged test for obscenity with a lower threshold than the Miller test. The matter involving minors can be deemed obscene if it 1. Depicts an image that is or appears to be a minor engaged in graphic bestiality, sadistic or masochistic abuse, or intercourse, and 2. If the image lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. A first-time offender convicted under this statute faces fines or at least 5 years to a maximum of 20 years in prison. There is no current statute of limitations for CP at the federal level. So that means that offenders can be charged at any time after their offense, right up to the time they die. And another comment reads, agreeing with another lawyer who says it's in a bit of a gray area, goes, quote, I agree with Mr. S. Your question falls under the gray area of the law that intersects with what would be considered protected under the First Amendment, speech and obscenity. It is not up to police to interpret the law, but they merely enforce it. That being said, you could be charged under the criminal code Mr. S cites, which is MD Code Criminal Law 11-208. It is best to avoid being charged with an offense altogether rather than leaving it to the court to interpret the law. Avoid this scenario altogether by not being in possession of such items. And for reference, that same law that's mentioned in that comment goes, a person may not knowingly possess or intentionally retain a film, videotape, photograph, or other visual representation showing an actual child under the age of 16 years old. The last comment will be this one where it says, quote, yes, cartoon P depicting minors is CP. If you make it, it is a federal felony. If you possess it, it is another federal felony. If you send it to somebody else, it is yet another federal felony. And of course, depending on the country, laws will be different, but they have the same laws such as 1466A. And for example, in Russia, Saddle, you're gonna love this one, they have law 242.1, which states that creating, distributing, and storing or moving it across Russian borders, yes, this includes the web, is illegal, even for drawings or art. And an example of this happened back in 2019 when a court in Bryansk sentenced a woman to 3 years in jail for posting nude art on her webpage. And also considering the fact that Saito did groom a 15-year-old makes it even worse for him if this were to get reported one day. And not only in Russia does this law also have a grasp, but it also has a grasp in other places such as Africa, Korea, and the UK, and the United Arab Emirates, just to name a few. And wherever you are, it is still wrong and is against the law to create CP. And another excuse, it features a time skip, so it is okay. It's not. This excuse is literally a thin-veiled one to allow you to age up a minor character and ship them for the sake of it having to appear normal. And they will have the excuse that says, oh, well, others use time skips. Why is mine wrong? Well, okay, let's debunk that. So, I like to point out this time skip with Ellie and Fredrickson from Disney Pixar's Up from 2009, where their love started as kids and aged up to adults and later old people later up in the film. And another good example that I want to point out is 2004's The Notebook, starring Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams. And in this, there's multiple time skips of them as teens to when they're middle-aged, to when they're old, and up to their death at the end of the film and holding hands. I recommend watching this film, it's pretty impactful. And a few more I want to include quickly is Steven Universe with both Steven and Connie, and Ruby and Sapphire, Homer and Marge from The Simpsons, Lois and Peter Griffin from Family Guy, and Korra and Asami from The Legend of Korra. And I would love to name other ones, but that would take too much time here. But anyways, the common ground between these ships and the time skips is that the characters are displayed as teens or kids at first, and at the same age before skipping ahead to where they're aged up and actually play a crucial role in the stories they're from. Now, taking a side-by-side comparison with the artists' ways, the difference is night and day. The regular ones are done for the plot as well as show a good character dynamic and development that isn't fueled by delusion, whereas the artists blatantly use this excuse to pass off their pedophilic ship as quote-unquote perfectly fine, when it is aged up because they all know it's wrong, but use this to try not to get backlash. And the next one is, it's in an alternate universe. And again, just like with the time skip subject, this is also another thin-veiled excuse that they use to defend their slop. Alternate universes are mainly for stuff like the butterfly effect and not for justifying this. Now again, there is other better examples of alternate universe relationships, such as my AU, for example. Alright, I'm just going to show him. A, who is either with Miss Circle, Miss Bloomy, or Thavel, depending on which universe you're in, which is either, as I marked it, the CMC universe, the CMB universe, or the CMT universe. And unlike the underage characters, where the artists ship them with the adults, A is thankfully in his 30s and changes whether he's with, well, whichever wife. Now, to briefly explain this, in the CMC universe, where he's with Miss Circle, he's 35, and in the CMB universe, where he's with Miss Bloomy, he is 33, and in the CMT Thavel universe, he is 34. And in all worlds, he is friends with Engel, Claire, Abby, and Lana, and many other characters, and even plays in a rock and roll band with them and all sorts, and loves to spend time with his family. Anyways, now my intent is to only share stories and create a narrative of care and showing the slice of life with the characters displayed. And to look at the others, they really don't have the same feeling, nor do they show that they strongly create a sort of message, whether that be a good or bad one, that is handled with any sort of care. Nor does it show that it's natural in any way, but rather forced, in other words. But is also kind of trash. And another excuse, just scroll away. I don't care what I make. I won't be controlled. Now it's another stupid excuse made up by their fans and themselves. Oh look, that's cool, I can scroll away. But that only means that I'm leaving the other person behind me with the same unpleasurement of seeing that disgusting picture you did. It's like if you threw your trash on the ground in a no littering zone and said, whatever, I'll have the next guy do it for me. It makes you look entitled, and it risks a possibly uneducated person behind me to believe that it's okay to support this when it isn't. The more people against it and know about it, the better. Sure, you may not care, but you know who does? The law. And also the other people who despise you for being a disgusting, unwanted person. And all we're asking is you either revamp or risk getting removed, terminated, or end up behind bars. Now for the next one, oh, I'm a minor, it's perfectly fine. Now hold on, buddy. Don't be so sure about that, because I got your back right here. Even minors themselves, knowingly creating such things, can also be held liable by law, whether it's being fined up to $1,000, spending time in jail, or dealing with a federal case in juvenile court. And this goes under law CPC 311.1. And even though if it isn't in California, there's still laws not only in this country, but also in others, that prohibit stuff like this and also punish you for doing this. And the other one is artistic freedom. Now, real artistic freedom is defined as the freedom to imagine, create, and distribute diverse cultural expressions free from governmental censorship, political interference, or the pressures of non-state actors. And some examples of this is showing stuff like adult nudity, protests, censorship, racism, as well as many other good examples that have been portrayed. But that doesn't cover you when you're making blatant CP and posting it on the web to show minors and such. And to defend it by saying, oh, it's artistic nudity, is like if I went to the White House and told the agents there that I'm gonna assassinate the president, and then later following up with, oh, it's free speech, I'm protected under the First Amendment. I'm pretty sure that's not gonna go over well. I would either be dead or arrested, if that ever happened. And I found this article titled Artistic Freedom, The Lie We Use to Defend the Indefensible, written by Melissa Hillman on culture, theater, art, and film. And this mainly focuses on film and, well, theater, but it bleeds into art as well. And I will show a few quotes from this article to show how the excuse crumbles. One line goes, quote, "The idea behind artistic freedom is one of the best ideas ever. Artists should be able to engage with the world around them without constraints such as censorship. Artists with artistic freedom create better, usually more impactful and important art under those conditions. But those conditions always exist within a given framework. Some constraints are practical, time, space, and budget. Some are legal, the law, your contracts. Some are ethical, best practices. Some are artistic, imposed by the artist or by the director or producer, or just by basic parameters of the project. And some are social, updating outdated topical humor, avoiding lines, characters, or narrative tropes that would be considered racist, etc. Although not every artist recognizes or follows every constraint every time." And later on, another line reads here, basically saying why the excuse is flawed, and is said, quote, "They already have that. They want the freedom to do so without criticism." And this right here explains fully why they use the artistic freedom excuse. And since they're so desperate to have it not be wrong that they rather categorize it as artistic freedom, but know very well that it's wrong. And even taking a quick Google search tells you, quote, "No. Artistic freedom does not defend somebody from creating or distributing CSAM or CP, as the creation and distribution of such content is illegal and harmful regardless of any artistic context." Now, comparing the real better examples that they each produce, it's very clear that they're using this as an excuse to justify their garbage that they keep accumulating. They rather give real artistic freedom a bad rep just to defend their slop, which is absolutely not only depraved, but also kind of pathetic. It was made a long time ago. It doesn't matter. Well, as much as you want to keep writing this excuse till there's nothing but bone left, I do have to remind you that back in 2006, the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act eliminated the need for a statute of limitation back then, meaning that yes, you will be guilty at any time no matter what. And I also want to point out too that the Protect Act of 2003 also criminalizes the creation and distribution and possession of CP and CSAM related material, including obscene depictions of children that are not in real pictures. So, boiling this down, this means that it criminalizes drawings, cartoons, sculptures, and paintings of such, including AI-generated images of children doing you know what. And so, yes, that means if Shax, Saito, or whoever could have stopped now, but they still made it, and it's still up and still in their possession, it's still illegal. Even if you deleted it, you still made it, and it is still considered illegal material under federal law. As for final thoughts, you can call me a hater or whatever you want, but just so you know, I'm speaking the truth here, along with everybody else who is against you, getting wise as I and many others spread awareness about you currently. You all have really good styles, but over your many years of perfecting and adding on to it, you decided to waste it on garbage that makes you look not only desperate, but also makes you look like a depraved, disgusting individual, as well as defending it and trying to use your fan base on harassment and all those other stuff. And as for good artists in the community such as myself or Chaman, Nisheko, Toonzy, Koki, Janahex, and many others, they put actual soul and focus onto their art, onto many great subject matters, as well as relying on things that don't involve subjects such as pedophilia and such to gain love and compassion from good fans who actually know from right or wrong. And as for a quick message before this video ends, you do have the potential to change. You really should be able to avoid issues and controversy. You may say you don't care or choose to continue to be delusional, that's alright in your eyes, but when the day comes that you sit in a jail cell or get your content and account banned, or you get so much overwhelming hate that you quit, I'm afraid that I won't be surprised. And that I will say that it is well deserved that it happened to you. It's based on what you chose, and you chose the wrong path. Submit to change and quit the mess, or risk getting taken down or possibly chased away. It's better to give the people you built your following on a better style and get rid of the horrible stuff. Because as I always say, it's better to be a free man than to wave at your own fans through iron bars and paying fines.